What's up everybody? Welcome back to Zero Mile ADV, True Beginner's Guide to Adventure Motorcycling. If you haven't already, subscribe, hit the notification bell, hit the like button, that also helps. Even though this video might be terrible and you may not like it, if you hit the like, it still helps. So go ahead and do that now. With that, let's get into it. Today we're talking about more single track on the Honda CRF450RL. People seem to love this bike. I actually love this bike. I have a lot of fun on it. And if you haven't seen my other video, I recently just rode a KTM 300 XC, so a 300 cross-country bike, and it was a two-stroke, my first time ever riding a two-stroke, and I actually took it out to this trail, which is right over here. I'm not sure if you can see it in the background, probably not, this strap probably isn't wet enough, but it is what we call the Powerline trail out here. You kind of follow the power lines out, and then it gets in this old dry creek bed, and you kind of whip through. If you watch my KTM video, you saw a lot of footage there because I had a lot of fun in that section on that bike. So I wanted to bring the Honda back because I wanted to see how it did. You know, I haven't ridden this trail on this bike since I first got it. And I had just the fact it was basically bone dry stock. I was still super nervous. Like, you know, I haven't really, this is my first dirt bike and I had never ridden this trail. I didn't know where I was. There was a lot of confusion and, you know, you're not going to ride it as fast. So having explored out here more, getting to know the trail, I wanted to bring it back. First, a couple thoughts on this bike. For me, today, it just reconfirmed my suspicions that I feel that this bike is the perfect 50-inch trail slayer for me, and at least my riding ability, I should say. I feel if you're a better rider, then you could probably, with most things, like it doesn't really matter the bike you're on, you can probably rip whatever you want. But at my skill level, I need a bike that's a little lighter, easier to throw around, and has a little bit of a different power delivery. With this bike, I felt like through this single track, it was too fast for first gear and a little bit too slow for second gear, where the KTM, it didn't really seem to matter like what gear I was in because it almost felt impossible to stall, so you could kind of like always keep riding it. Where this bike, you know, was like in second gear, potentially going to stall in certain spots, so that made it a little more challenging. Also, I feel like the weight made a huge difference. So this bike is probably, I think it's like 50 or 60 pounds heavier than the KTM, and like the funnest part about this trail is there's these kind of like big berms, you know, natural berms as you swoop down this old creek bed. And on the KTM, I felt like I could go high on those and just like really swoop and had really good momentum and flow throughout the trail. Where this bike, I felt like I got up there and then the bike, like I felt it wanting to lose traction. It just didn't want to feel like it wanted to hook up. It just felt kind of stuck in there, which made it a bit harder to ride. It just kind of killed my confidence. However, on a few spots, I did notice that the bike, when I carried more speed into those berms, it was a lot more fun. And so maybe if I was better at riding this bike faster and I had a better off-road skill set, it might have been a lot more fun, but because I'm not that great of a rider, it was quite a bit more challenging. The other thing is on this bike, I have the DOT tires. So with DOT tires and thick tubes, there's a couple of benefits that come with that, right? Like I don't have to worry about pinch flats as much with the thicker sidewalls and the thicker tubes, but also I'm probably giving up traction. I felt the KTM, like it just always hooked. No matter, that was probably the most fun thing about it, is I could whip it around these like tight corners and it always hooked. I never felt it lose traction. This bike, I felt the front wash out and dive quite a bit. I also felt the back end wash out, especially coming up those berms, you'd start to feel the back end coming down, which basically I found I needed more momentum. Like I needed to go faster through them, but because I'm not good enough to carry that much speed coming off of that and trying to ride within my abilities, it made it a lot harder. So I think if I was better, then this probably be a lot more fun on single track like this than the KTM. But for my skill level, even though the KTM power band in that upper power band would basically kill me, I think this bike was still, you're riding it in a lower gear, it was a lot more fun. it was almost like a street bike. Like I felt like I could never really be in a wrong gear in that bike because it just was almost impossible to stall. This bike, however, because of its like stalling stuff, even with the G2 throttle tube and the Get ECU, and I feel like as the bike is broken in, it's not quite as stall prone. But with the stall proning issues, like coming in or like having to slow down to get around these tight corners, it just wasn't as fun. And I could definitely feel the weight difference. And the KTM, actually, I'm actually really surprised. I thought, because, so let me back up. I had come out here a couple of days ago. We had a lot of rain and I'd waited a couple of days, but it was still really wet and muddy, so I had to turn around. And coming out here, I was like, had just ridden the KTM, and I was like, oh, I love the power delivery actually on this bike. I love it's not so like, I never feel like I'm gonna loop it. But then once I got in the single track, it just wasn't as fun. This probably goes back to also my experience in Moab, riding this bike on single track. Like, I got my butt kicked. Like, it was just a lot of work. And actually, even I felt it in here, like I was really working a lot harder to get the bike through here, like just to move the weight around. Again, probably because of my bad skills, right? I feel like probably if I was better and I had better skills in carrying the bike, then it didn't really matter what bike I was on. But at my skill level, I was having to work a lot harder to move the bike through the single track. So with that being said, I just feel that this bike, for me and my skill level, is like, it's amazing for like double track or 50-inch wide trails, which is super, super fun. It would also be fun, like it could be fun on like backcountry dirt roads, but I would probably rather have like a big adventure bike, like a KTM 1290 Super Adventure R that you could really rip just some like backcountry dirt roads on. So this, I feel like for me and my skill level, like the 50-inch trails is really is where I kind of feel at home until I can get better. And maybe I just need to ride this trail more and get better at it, and then I'll have a lot more fun and I can make up with it. But if I had to choose right now to go ride the Powerline trail, single track, if I had to go ride single track, I would take the KTM all day, every day. Maybe if I rode like a 250 4-stroke, I keep talking about that Yamaha 250 WR 250F, I think is what it is. It would be great if I could get my hands on one of those and ride that. It'd be interesting to see how like the 250 compares, being a lot smaller bike. You know, would it be just as fun? And with a little bit better power delivery, maybe that would be fun, you know, kind of like just looking at things on paper. So anyways, with that, if you've made it this far, leave a terrible comment below. Tell me why you think this is the worst YouTube channel in the world. Hit subscribe, hit the like button, the notification bell, all that stuff. It's free. It helps the channel. I greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't, go check out zeromileadv.com. If you're watching this video when it first comes out, we don't have our apparel out yet. We're getting closer. I'm doing weekly videos on where we're at with that, so you can check those out if you're interested in that. If you're watching this at a later date, maybe a year after I put this video out, go to zeromileadv. Maybe we might have something you like. We want your feedback. We want to create amazing custom ADV and Dualsport apparel that you can wear on and off the bike. So if you're watching this later date, go check it out. If you purchase something, we want your feedback. We want to know how we can make it better. We want to support the community, so definitely go check that out. And until next time, stay safe out there.